I'm going to go ahead and
I kind of need to get on the internet here.
Yep.
Oh my God, Andy, you don't need that.
Good evening, everyone. This is our annual post-election reorganization meeting, so I'm going to chair the meeting until we elect a new chair. But let's start with asking our town clerk, Karen Mott, to come up and swear in our newest member, Megan, and our two incumbents, Izzy and Andy.
You all please rise over this section of the room and put you all together.
She's going to be photographed. I'm going to
I'll ask you to raise your right hand and then to repeat after me. I state your name.
I state your name. Andy.
Megan spelled over you.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
That I will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont.
That I will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont.
And that I will not directly or indirectly
And that I will not directly or indirectly
do any act or thing injurious to the Constitution or government thereof.
Any
act or thing injurious
to the
Constitution
of Vermont government
or thereof.
So help me God, or under pains and penalties of perjury.
So help me God, or under pains and penalties of perjury.
All right, and this is a two-part oath. That was the Vermont Oath of Allegiance for appointed officials and the Oath of Allegiance for appointed officials and elected officials. There's a two-piece oath.
Great.
So let's do it.
Yeah.
I,
Andy Hooper.
Megan G. spelled over you.
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of my election.
Do
Do
solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of my election
As select person
As select person
for the town of Middlebury.
for the town of Middlebury,
And will therein do equal right and justice
and will therein do equal right and justice
to all persons to the best of my judgment and ability,
to all persons to the best of my judgment and ability,
according to the law.
according to the law.
So help me God, or under the pains and penalties of perjury.
So help me God, or under the pains and penalties of perjury.
Excellent. You are now Middlebury Select Board members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The alliteration of pains and penalties of perjury is awesome.
Really good.
Yeah.
Do you want
Wow,
to sign
congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole bunch of people reconsidering their vote now.
Rightfully so. Can't remember
Do you
20
norm-
words.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You would have had me.
Yeah, thanks, Karen.
All right.
Welcome.
We have a
and-
quorum.
and thank you, Andy and Izzy, for another term. All right, so at this time, I will look for a nomination for our board chair.
I nominate Brian Carpenter.
Okay, so we have a nomination. Any second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Brian Carpenter will serve as chair, so we'll look for now a nomination for vice chair.
I'll nominate Andy Hooper.
So we have a
I
nomination
second.
And a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Wow. Pulling teeth. I'll abstain from that.
Okay, any opposed? None. All right, Andy, congratulations.
Thanks.
You're our
Yay,
vice chair,
Andy.
and I'll let
Very
you take
good.
it from here.
I will move on with the agenda. Item 3 is the approval of tonight's agenda. It has been recommended that we move item 14, the congressionally directed spending for the library, to follow the ReArch presentation, item 8. Is there any objection to that change?
No, good one.
With no objection, I'd accept a motion to accept the modified agenda. Team.
So moved.
We're
Thank
trying
you.
to figure out the
I'm sorry,
Wi-Fi
I'm
password.
distracted because I'm unable to log into the Wi-Fi, and I'm so sorry, but
It's an organizational meeting, people.
yeah, I mean, I seem to be attached
I seem to be like on there, but I can't access the agenda. So, I mean, we don't have to waste time on this if Izzy doesn't mind if I look over her shoulder. Oh, yeah.
Yay, Drew!
Thank you, Drew.
You can also often get Ilsley from there.
I mean, I'm there, it's
Yeah.
just not like letting me see what I'm on.
Tech support.
So I noticed that I'm actually having trouble registering.
So we have a motion?
We have a motion with no second at this point.
I second the motion.
Very good.
Thanks, Dan.
You know me, I always like to do that.
Yes. Yay!
Look
Yay,
at that.
Drew! Yay!
Thank you, Drew.
Back in action, I'm sorry.
No worries. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the agenda as modified, please indicate. Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Moving on, the next item is the consent agenda. On here we have many items, including our minutes from February 25th, our hastily called special meeting of March 5th, the meetings of various committees, including Planning, Energy, Conservation, the DRB, and the Policy Review Committee. We have applications for liquor permits from Vermont Hard Cider Company, Champlain Farms, Shaw's, not the Courtyard Marriott, because they need changed ownership and they're going to the state.
So they are seeking new applications, although technically they're the same applications as before, since it's a new owner.
Yes.
They have to be new. So generally, the select board's practice has been to bring new folks to the board for discussion. However, it's the same licenses. It's simply a technicality requiring them to apply as a new owner, not as a renewal.
Okay.
So we put them under the consent
Perfect.
agenda unless you want to change it.
Very good. Courtyard Marriott and Kenny Drugs, all seeking renewals of alcohol licenses. We have the approval of the letter to VTrans regarding the airport issues that Ross raised previously.
Andy, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Can I just clarify that that letter has been sent to
Okay.
VTrans?
We will,
I did watch the recording of the meeting where it was
Posthumously.
discussed.
yeah, good. Okay. Should we pull it because it's moot, or?
It was intended to be just a way to share that information with the
Okay,
full board.
good.
So you knew that I had a conversation with Brian, and the recording, it appeared to me that when you discussed it last time, Brian had agreed to work with Tom, and it just fell through the cracks, so we were just doing a little housekeeping, that's all.
Very good. Thank you. We have the local hazard mitigation plan, which I am going to pull. There was correspondence between Andrew LaRoe and the town about modifications to a prior version of this that were not incorporated in the version that we see tonight. I reviewed that briefly just before this meeting. There are a number, maybe 30 sticky comments throughout the document in that version that should be incorporated before we approve it. So this will hopefully show up on the next meeting's consent agenda. And then we have a number of items in the town manager's report, clerk of the works, the director's report of Ilsley, a thank you letter to the bank for hosting our mini Ilsley, election results, and an Act 250 notice. With that one removal, is there any action?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Moved
Second.
and seconded. Anything else that people would like to pull off for further discussion? Hearing nothing. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please indicate. Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. The next item on the agenda is citizen comments. This is a time for someone who is here to speak on an item which is not on the published agenda for not too long, please.
And
Laura Acermoli, 3 quickies. So town meeting feedback, good job. And Drew, MCTV, I heard raves this year about the quality of the sound that people could hear at home. Like, the live streaming worked so well. Yay! Because there were years where we had trouble with the audio, and this year, no problem. You know, so bravo. And they loved the video presentation of a complex topic on the wastewater treatment. So I don't know if you got that feedback. I shared it with Crystal. Did you get all that?
From other folks, yeah.
commentary?
Just the details.
Yeah, I mean, and I really am so appreciative of what David and Crystal provided in terms of the quality of the organization for town meeting. The slides were very readable. They were a little fast, you know, like what I noticed, like in people were looking for a little more detail, which is why I slowed it down with some of the questions that I asked. And they were hungry for a little bit more print, like there was nothing. And so I'm just letting you know that as general feedback, but seeing you up there, like the quality of the meeting went really well. You know, so I wanted to say that. And then I also wanted to let you know that the Public Health and Safety Committee will be meeting on Monday, March 24th at 4 o'clock, so we meet quarterly. And that's a compilation of stakeholders, really, like from the college, from the school district, from our town, our select board, of course our staff, you know, our police chief, our fire chief, AMREMS. So it's good, like it's a stakeholder group, and that we really kind of check in on a rotating checklist of agenda items, but you can always feed us something. So I'm just here to check in again if there's anything that you want to give us. So you know that we've been spending time on the encampment policy, which you're looking at tonight, you know, traffic calming and flow, which we can talk about endlessly, you know, and parking, you know, related to traffic, and also response to extreme climate events, from the extreme storm we just had where it was very hard to get sidewalks cleared and roads with that storm, and lessons learned. So it functions sort of as a debriefing, but also looking forward, you know, to the next season, flooding, you know, are we ready? Or extreme heat in the case of summer. All right, so this is the March meeting, and then it'll meet again 3 months later after that. So just letting you know that. And the public, if they're watching, you know, it's an open meeting, you're more than welcome to come, and it's very valuable because we hear from the community, and then we can reflect that back to you, just as you can give us things too. So just wanted to let you know that.
Perfect.
And
Thanks,
I'll be
Laura.
back. Okay.
Welcome.
Congratulations upon all the new members in the election. Kevin Perez, I just wanted to check in. I was here back in October, I think it was, to find out what the status was about the potential of an emergency crossing. And I hadn't heard anything more, so.
And as far as I know, Brian has taken the lead on this in conversations with the state regarding rail easements to get an alternate route that goes around via a rail crossing. And with him not here tonight, I have no idea if there's anything to report.
Okay, so
I'm afraid.
Is it? Brett?
You mentioned this to me on the street.
Yep.
Some other time. I did ask Brian about it. I don't have your contact information, so I wasn't able to get back to you. But
Okay,
he said that he's been back and forth with lots of emails, and he's having a very difficult time getting them to agree on a location that would work. So that's what I know about. But he ought to answer it directly to you.
Mm-hmm.
He can answer directly. He's staffing this.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know more.
Okay. Well,
I will direct staff to find out from Brian where things are.
Okay.
And get you
Wonderful.
any updates that might exist.
very good. Thank you.
If you don't mind sharing your email contact with us, that'd be great.
Brilliant. Any other folks here for something not on the agenda?
There's a hand up.
Very quickly.
Oh, and we also have Judy, who we'll get to after this.
Richard McCarr. Given the time of year and as we talked, open windows, would it be possible to have a sign on every street leading into Middlebury that says, please, no engine brakes?
No what?
Engine brakes, otherwise known as Jake brakes.
No,
Yes,
engine
I know,
brakes.
own the Swift House Inn right at the bottom of the hill.
There is a sign there.
Well, yeah.
Oh, there was a sign.
There is a sign up at that.
Yeah,
Oh, it used
just,
to be.
I'm not,
V-Trans will fight it, but if we say please,
I'm not sure if we have the authority to just throw, we just don't have the authority, I don't think, to throw up a sign controlling traffic
You know?
without,
Well, I'm just gonna weigh in, I think on the village limits, which start at High Street
Yep.
and at Creek Road, the old village limits, the town does have the ability to put up a sign that says, please, or put up, Arbor Day, or, other kinds of signs that are town.
Chief, what do you,
Town right of way.
Chief, can you jump in here?
As to whether we can do it,
Yes.
I'd have to look into that, what
Okay.
the regulations are, when, where.
I think it's a good idea.
how would you enforce it? Yeah, got that.
Right.
It's,
Off the top of my head,
it would be a yellow sign, not a regulatory sign, advisory kind of.
Yeah,
Did everybody sign?
with a big please.
Nobody signed it.
V-Trans can't argue with that, can they?
Oh, you'd be surprised.
No, it wouldn't.
Thank you.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, let's bring Judy in. Judy, please unmute. There you are.
Can you?
We can.
Yep. All right. So my first question is, was the letter to V-Trans approved by the board?
We did during the meeting, and the content of it was what we discussed in the meeting. It has been retroactively approved and it has been delivered.
So it's been sent to V-Trans,
Yes.
and now we're awaiting. Andy, you're making me nervous.
We're waiting
And
what?
it- And now we're awaiting their response.
Yeah.
Okay, but the letter that Brian wrote has been sent, and we're now awaiting their response.
Agreed.
Okay, perfect. I guess about the, the whole noise thing that just was mentioned.
Yep.
Geez, I love going one-on-one with you, Dan. But it's like, yeah, in some places, I'm glad I don't live on Main Street in Middlebury. The noise is incredible.
Sure.
I live on the back 40, and I'm hoping that any development that goes on back here does not increase the noise, because this is one place in Middlebury that is quiet. We can see the stars.
You're hoping for a monastery to open near you.
I'm sorry, what?
I suggested that a monastery might be what you're looking for nearby. Something very quiet.
Well, I'm thinking to myself that, I'm gonna sell my property, and there's a monetary value in it being quiet.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's being quiet, and meanwhile, it's all being considered. I won't go on.
And Judy, my question was just whether we can do it. I agree with it. I think it's a great idea, but I just question whether we can do it.
Yeah.
And the staff I'm sure will.
Particularly on state routes, which is where it was requested.
Right.
So, I'll leave you with one thing. I think we need to start saying we can, as opposed to, Andy,
Judy, are you familiar with Dillon's rule?
Andy.
Are you familiar with
Andy,
Dillon's rule?
Andy.
Are you
stop.
familiar with Dillon's
Andy,
rule?
It's my turn.
Okay.
It's my turn. We need to stop saying we can't, and instead say we can.
Okay.
I'm good.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
All right. Anyone else before we move on to our next item? Very well. Off we go. Agenda item number 6, Select Board organizational steps.
Andy,
Yes.
two things just as an update on this. We haven't
Sure.
heard back from Malt yet. Traditionally, the town has appointed a coordinator for Green Up Day activities. We
Okay.
have not heard back. I'm sure we will, but we just haven't heard. So we don't have a name for that one. Also, in previous years, both Richard and Diane showed interest in it. I heard back from Richard, not Diane. I just double checked the emails now. So Richard, we can appoint. Diane, I'm sure will be interested, but I just rather hear from her before we
Okay,
appoint her.
that seems appropriate.
Yeah.
This is for the solid waste.
Solid waste
district.
district.
Yeah, and the reason we do those, I looked into it just rather than with the rest of all of our appointments next month. I spoke to the folks over there. They have a requirement in their town or organizational charter, or whatever it may be, to appoint everybody by X date. So
Right.
we've historically accommodated them
Yep.
by appointing early.
Many towns do not. They are also flexible about this because they have many vacancies on their board. As the former Middlebury representative to this esteemed board, I am meeting with their new executive director next week to discuss an increased flow of communication between our bodies. Okey doke. Yes,
Are we appointing?
we are almost there. Hang on.
I just didn't know.
Okay. The first item listed on the agenda is the setting of regular select board meeting dates. These have traditionally been the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of meeting at that cadence, please signify. Aye.
Aye. And I have a question, a procedural question.
Yeah.
We've been saying so moved a lot. Do you want us to read the motions and the motions? Are we okay with that? Okay, just checking for the,
Thank you.
for the minute.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Don't put the right word.
I'm guilty too. So.
Yeah, very well. Next item is the setting of the newspaper of record. The select board needs to designate a newspaper of record for the publication of official notices for the town. The Addison Independent is currently the publication of record.
I move to designate the Addison Independent as a newspaper of record for publication of official notices of the town of Middlebury.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify. Aye. Perfect. Onward. The next item is adopting the 2025-2026 Select Board Expenditure Review Roster. Traditionally, each Select Board member has in turn each month reviewed all of the expenses of the town. A time-consuming exercise during the workday, which no other towns which our auditors audit partake in. Farhad.
Since you brought it up, I want to do away with that if I could.
Make a motion.
I'm not in favor of having that because of all the reasons you said, and none of the other towns do it. And I can commit to it. If you have to go with it, I want to opt out. So I will have a motion not to go with it. If someone wants to second.
I will second that motion.
Discussions? Right?
I like a third level of accountability. And I don't mind doing it. I put my headphones in, listen to my calm, relaxing music, go through our checks, make sure they match the invoice, see what we're buying.
So here's the thing, when I first joined the select board, we used to have one member of the board who used to do it all the time, and we had an alternate. And then a couple years after that, we changed into a
Rotation.
roster, and which I can't keep track of that, you know, so.
What about another option? That's having a committee of the people who are willing and interested to do this rather than
A committee of
rotating
people.
everybody.
So I have a suggestion. Why don't we ask the town manager and his staff, particularly the finance department, what they would like? Are they, is this important to them? Is this something they want done? And is this something they want select board members would be better at accomplishing?
I don't think it makes a difference to them whether we do it or not. I really don't.
I can't speak for that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And they don't have to speak now, but I mean, you can take that on.
Would you consider discussing this in more depth at your retreat?
I think that's a great idea.
Yes.
Sure.
All right, motion to table until the retreat, it would be in order.
There you go.
Moved, seconded?
Yeah, second.
Motion to table, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It is placed on the table to be
You-
taken off at the retreat.
You made some progress.
We're getting there. On our way. Next up is the appointment of Middlebury delegate and alternate to the Addison County Solid Waste Management District Board of Supervisors, with the understanding we have not yet heard that Diane Mott would like to be reappointed as the delegate. So I would suggest
So we
just
do
the
one?
second motion.
Okay. I'll move to reappoint Richard McCurr as Middlebury's alternate delegate to the Addison County Solid Waste Management District Board of Supervisors.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate. Aye.
Aye.
Amazing. Moving on. Congratulations, sir. The next item on the agenda is the review and approval of the Select Board operating principles, which were included in the packet. These are a good set of guiding principles for how we conduct ourselves.
Is there a change from the previous year, or is it just pretty much the same?
What?
The operating principles?
They're the same.
It's the same document.
The same thing, right? Yeah, so there's not much to.
I would move adoption.
Moved
Second?
and seconded. Any discussion, Dan?
Yes, I want to discuss them. I've had some discussions with Brian, and he wanted to reiterate some things about the operating principles, because we've might be wandering a little bit, and he felt it'd be effective to talk about them, and Megan might want to hear this. So all I'm going to do is highlight some things in the operating principles about who we are and how we operate. Most importantly, how we operate with the staff and the town manager. But so I'm just going to highlight things off here. You've read them, but as you know, we're elected to be a governing board rather than an independent town official. So that's our primary responsibility, is to govern. And we work most effectively when we work collaboratively to identify critical issues facing the town, such as infrastructure, economic development, energy efficiency, sustainability, and we establish funding and project priorities. That's our primary goal. That's what we do. Okay. Part of the operating principles is to affirm our mutual understanding of commitment to certain leadership practices that support the efficient operation of the municipal government. Okay? And a reminder to us all that we represent the entire community at all times, and sometimes we have to balance that, what we believe in, and what somebody in town might have told you, to what is the best thing for the community. So, and one important item, we should refrain from making statements or promises regarding outcomes of matters that will come before the board until having full and fair opportunity to weigh these merits at the board meetings. And now it's in relationship to the town manager. And I'm going to read this right off. That having delegated full responsibility to town manager, we have hired him, and it's his responsibility here, and his or her staff for the day-to-day administration of Middlebury's municipal services and functions. The board's leadership focus is primarily on questions of policy, long-term strategic planning directed toward the welfare and the betterment of the community. In that it recognizes and supports the administrative chain of command and will refer questions and concerns, requests and complaints from members of the community to the town manager for appropriate action and delegation. And finally, that the board members will refrain from providing work direction or requiring assistance from town staff directly, and will instead bring all such concerns to the attention of the town manager through the full board. Okay? Now, it's very similar in our relationship to the staff also, and that's number 4, it's relationships town staff. The board members will refrain from seeking input from individual town staff members outside of the scheduled meetings regarding operational issues utilizing staff planning or policy concerns. The board members will refrain from seeking support from individual staff members at all times. Okay? The board members will refrain from providing work direction or the perception of work direction, or requesting assistance from town staff members directly, and instead bring all such concerns to the attention of the town manager through the full board. I think it's important to remember this. We've gone through a period where we had an interim town manager. we've got an outstanding staff. We've got an outstanding new town manager who's is getting his feet wet and doing a lot of new things here. And we've just gone through a period where it was different. Some things, you know, some things I would like to highlight, and also we all get assigned to, and you can rebut these if you want, but this is my impression. But I guess organizationally wise, we have committees that work for us. All the work that we talk about here has come through committees, and they're the ones that do the work, and it gets to us, and we're the ones that get to decide, to vote on what they do. So the other side of that is the town staff, and they bring things for us, and through us and on their own, we delegate things to them and ask for their help, and we're always considerate when things come to us to find out if the staff has the time and abilities to do those items. So it's important to understand that chain of command there. And with those committees, we all sit on committees, and that puts us in a little bit of a different relationship. We are select board members sitting on a committee, and when we're around the staff, we're select board. But in that committee, we have to participate as a committee member, and participate. We don't get any special privileges or anything like that. And when that committee votes and it comes up, whatever you decide in that committee is going to come to us as the board, and we get to approve. Also, something I've watched is if we go to a different committee meeting and sit on it, and a lot of us do that. We just go sit on a different committee. I know when I go to a committee meeting, immediately people turn to me and look at me and say, "Hey, were you here for an issue or something?" So if we're in the audience and we start speaking to the committee, it's kind of, you're in the audience, you're speaking to the committee, and then whatever the committee decides to come, and you're going to have oversight here. So it's kind of like you're jumping over. So I'd be very careful about participating in any committee discussions, and particularly when you have other select board members already on the committee. And if you're going to do, you need to be talking to us who's on those committees and working. If you got input, work through them or work through the chair. But be careful how you do that, because you're going to get the opportunity to make decisions on what comes before us, and we just have to be careful how you influence that. And obviously it gets really sensitive with DRB and stuff like that. That's really sketchy. But I just think we need to be conscious of who we are and what our authority is, and we govern. So, and we're gonna, and I know we're gonna have to work through Mark, and we're all gonna need input, and we're all gonna do it. And in your committee meetings, you're gonna have staff members, and you're gonna work with those staff members. That's full approval of the board. But typically, if we have issues here, we decide those issues here, and then we ask the committees to address those issues, or we ask the town staff to do it. And that's how we get our ideas into the community and work on.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah,
Welcome.
thanks, Dan.
Welcome.
Any other comment on our operating principles?
I just would say that thank you, Dan, and I appreciate the time we had Saturday morning for 2 hours. And I've also spoken with Brian about this. There's a lot of things that are challenging for me particularly. I have a long history of working for the town, have some knowledge. I worked for a year on the town archives, and so I come with knowledge, and then I also have the time in my life, retired, that I have an aptitude of seeking out more information and in more detail. So I'm going to pledge to do a better job and be more faithful to the intent and letter of this as I can. So thank you.
And Fred, I wasn't directing it entirely to you. We've all made
I know
mistakes.
you.
I think you can remember an incident where I might have gotten my butt chewed out by
a couple times.
a chairman.
Some of it was severe.
So it's just important we talk about these issues and how we operate. We operate more effectively that way.
I think these are good principles. I think it's good for us to all have equal standing on this board and be presented by with the same information by staff and by committee
Yeah.
reports.
Yeah, that's a really important issue, that we all come in loaded with the same information and not have
Yeah.
other people. Yep.
Sorry, I come with more information from 30 years of working
Yeah,
in the town.
Oh,
I can't
understood.
unload that.
Of course.
We are appreciative you're here. You make our work easier and you bring things, and when you go back to 1980, we might cut you off, but 20,
No, I came in 81.
2000 and up is okay, but 1980, it's a little far.
All right. Is there more discussion on our operating principles? Hearing none. All those in favor, please indicate. Aye.
Aye.
That sounded unanimous to me. The final portion of our organization is appointing a Green Update Coordinator, which I believe we are postponing.
Yep.
Very good. The next item on our agenda is discussing an agenda and scheduling for the Select Board retreat. The Town of Middlebury Select Board's annual retreat is held each year in the spring following the swearing in of the Select Board, which we muddled our way through, to provide the board with an opportunity to consider the broader goals and objectives for the coming year. This agenda item is an initial opportunity for the Select Board to discuss what possible topics for the future retreat may be and consider a date for this retreat.
Isn't this something we should include our chair with, this discussion? Brian?
I think we probably have to, but it's
Maybe
on
we
the
could-
agenda. We
maybe-
need to be looking at dates.
But, you know, he had dates, he's a busy person.
For sure.
Choosing a date tonight without him seems,
I know he has a lot of Tuesday evenings free. It's possible that a first or third might be available. Yeah.
so, is there a necessity to do this tonight, or can we do this at a next
No.
meeting?
I mean, you set the date whenever you want to have it. It does have to be a public meeting, so just keep that in mind. But other than that, it's your meeting to set, and as long as we can have, you know,
Well, I mean the
48
discussion
hours
of the
to-
topics and scheduling, not that.
We
That'll be up to you.
You know, the dates are the firm thing. We're not really committing specifically tonight what the topics are. This, and we will talk about them for the next couple of select board meetings. So we'll refine them, and
I think the idea in previous years of adding this on at this point was just to get the ball rolling in terms of not just the logistics of when, but what topics you might want to discuss, and then eventually, if you can provide us with some notice to those topics, we can sort of try to prepare things to make it a little more of a fruitful conversation whenever you do choose to hold it.
Pretty much you want to build an agenda from going from here.
So knowing those topics
Yeah.
in advance of whenever.
Or we can
do
come
schedule.
back next meeting and bring our own.
well, we are to bring them in now.
If you have anything, you can talk about it.
Yeah.
Sure, I'd like to think about it. What do you got?
Oh, I'm waiting for you to tell me what you've got. I mean, you know, when the chair is not here, we still have to conduct business.
Yeah.
We still have to move on.
Okay.
If one of us wasn't here, we would still move on.
Sure.
And obviously we'll yield to him
He's
with this.
got input when
He's got
when
input.
he's back in town. Yeah.
He's not shy.
Whatever he learns in Scotland, he'll bring to.
Yeah. So.
Well, I have an idea, a
Please.
couple of them. The town charter was written in the 60s, and it's been updated in a couple of respects. But there are some pieces of it that are a bit archaic, or we're not practicing it. And I wonder if we shouldn't review that and see whether we still should or not. A couple of examples. You know, the town, in the town report, is supposed to have a 5-year capital improvement plan. Now, maybe that's something that the infrastructure committee handles, and it's more fluid than that. But you know, when people ask at town meeting, well, gee, we've got a bond vote here. What else have we got coming up?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a useful exercise, and not just to have a budget, but to have some words of the things ahead. I made reference to this at the town meeting when I was giving my report on the, whatever it was, the stormwater, Adams Acres. I'd gone in to see Emily to ask about the exhibits in preparation for that. I'd made an appointment with her, and here's an example of me talking to staff. You know, I'm on the infrastructure committee, so I can talk with Emily from time to time. But I asked if I could meet because it was the Monday before. Anyway, and I looked at her whiteboard, and there's the capital improvement plan for 3 years on a whiteboard, and it's, I asked her if I could take a picture of it. And this would be a useful kind of a thing with a little bit more fleshing out. But, another, and there might be some other things that could be updated. I'll just highlight one since you brought up the topic, Dan. In here, it does, this has a similar language to the operating principles. The Board of Selectmen and its members shall deal with the position of the service of the town for staff, and for which the manager is responsible solely through the town manager, and neither the Board of Selectmen nor any of its members shall give any orders or request any action by a subordinate in the office. This shall not be construed to prohibit the selectmen from recommending to the town manager a prospective employee and making general complaints to the manager or to department heads. So, charter says we can complain.
Yeah, I love the language.
I don't know. I can turn almost any idea that I bring or question into a complaint easily.
Yes, indeed.
Me too.
Anyway, it's an idea. And it's not just updating Board of Selectmen to Select Board, and but there's some other things in there that we might look at.
Yeah.
I had talked to Fred about that capital improvement plan. I think it's, we don't see that. You know, it'd be great if we could see out what we're looking at for 3 to 5 years. So that would certainly probably create a lot of discussion items. And, you know, we've somehow got to just stop saying we want to do what we can to encourage development, housing development. We've done that for 2 or 3 years.
At least.
We have it happening,
Mm-hmm.
but, you know, that's not, we can't take credit for that. Although we're overseeing it now, and have been involved, but we had a lot of help.
Sure.
And I think with a new town manager and who has gone through this before in other communities, it'd be interesting to talk about his ideas and how we can more effectively do that and get planning and zoning to do help with it.
It's been suggested that we might have Kevin Chu, the head of the Vermont Futures Project, come in to talk to our board about opportunities in our town and how he thinks about this. I don't know if you're familiar with his work.
No.
He sees a large population increase as a very desirable thing for driving a lot of positive things.
Is that
for Vermont.
scheduled already or no?
It is not, but I was wondering if we might want to invite him
Oh, we might, okay.
to this,
To
if we
agree.
are thinking about growth
Right.
in our town.
Right.
And his perspective on
Okay, good
how,
things to talk about.
yeah,
Yes, I think we should do that.
yeah, okay.
Part of the reason I suggest the capital improvement plan, because the other thing that I worry about is money. How
Of
are we gonna
course.
pay
Of
these
course.
things?
Yeah.
There's a huge amount that, you know, the town amazingly approved with a huge margin for bond projects. And with so many others out there on the horizon, we have to find ways to reach for that and program for that. So,
Yes.
money.
Do people have a rough sense of when they would like to do this? Looking at the calendar, April 1st jumps out to me for many reasons. There's a little irony to it.
I cannot do April 1st.
You cannot.
I can do April 15th.
I'm leaning towards the April 15th timeframe.
April 15th, Tax Day, as it's known,
Oh.
which I think is a fine and very governmental
Yes, feels-
date to have such an event.
Feels like a good day.
I can do that, yeah.
I plan to be away that.
You will
Oh,
be,
darn it.
Um,
The 29th?
Are we committed to Tuesday night? Does it
We are
have
not.
to
No,
be
we're not
Tuesday?
committed to Tuesday night.
Oh.
We could do a weekend. We have
What?
so much flexibility.
No, no.
Never mind.
I'm gonna ask
I was
for a
gonna
pay
say
raise.
Weekend sounds good to me, but
What's that?
Said ask for a pay raise now.
Unless, maybe like a brunch.
I
think
personally
for
love
brunch.
anything, like, I just love like an earlier hour.
We do an earlier
Any
hour for
day
this.
I have an earlier hour.
When we say earlier, it's like
Like in the
5
morning?
o'clock or something.
Like even starting at 6 o'clock
We-
instead of 7 o'clock.
We usually start them between 5 and 6
5
o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Oh, great,
Sandwiches.
yeah,
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sandwiches.
Yep.
And we
Yeah.
bring in sandwiches
I
and
love
do that.
that.
And,
What about
and last year
Thursday?
last year we had 2 sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we
And,
did.
and the 2 sessions last year were, no, we had 2 sessions 2
The
years
year
ago.
before, library.
April 4th and the 28th, and
Look at
last year was
you.
May 29th.
Oh my God.
Starting to
So
sound like
organized.
crap.
Well, no, that's the only notes I have on my whole
What about
page.
Thursday, the 3rd of April?
What's that?
Thursday, the 3rd of April.
I'm away that week.
I'm away.
Thursdays are bad for me personally.
Why don't you move to the second week of April? Pick a day.
Well, second week of April is actually Select Board week, but that's
Sure.
why I think
On the
Izzy
8th.
was going to,
What's the third week?
Monday night or Wednesday night are fine with me that week.
How are Wednesdays? for
Talking
you?
about the second week?
Wednesday's
Third week.
fine.
I could do the 9th.
He's talking about second week.
oh, is he?
I could do the
I
night.
can't do the 9th.
Oh, darn it.
That's why I'm saying, it's easier for me starting the 14th.
Is this the kind of thing we can
Any-
set up a Google Doodle for?
I
Yeah.
love a
Potentially.
Google
Yeah.
Doodle.
And then we could include Brian even
Yeah.
from
Good
Scotland.
idea.
All right.
That's a good idea.
All right.
Why don't we pick 2 dates?
Right now?
No, with the
Google poll?
Google.
You can put in a bunch
You
of
can
them and then
put
you
as
do,
in
you
many.
click
Well,
as
that's
many
why I
that
say,
work.
I know how it works. I said, let's, as a group, pick 2 dates,
Two potential.
2 potential dates.
Okay.
Oh.
We can't pick one potential date as a group.
Not when we're talking like this, we can't, so,
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Oh, for the potential of 2 meetings.
a potential of 2 meetings.
Very good.
Oh, okay.
I understand now. Very well.
You
That's,
also-
I think,
you
a fine
also
thing.
give choices between
course.
like.
Many.
What, just-
Many choices.
Just like.
Just
list
the whole map.
Anything from
Boom.
the
Whole
14th
thing.
of April through May. and-
Yep.
Everybody's gonna have a different day if you.
Well,
give
you're
choices.
gonna, you pick all the ones that you're available for, you don't just pick
Right.
one.
Yeah,
And then
You
we
don't
can
just
see.
pick, you can't just pick your favorite. You
And then
have
look
to
for the
be
one that has the
honest.
most overlap.
Pick your
Now we're
favorite.
becoming, now we're becoming
Stop
more
it.
entertaining than we should
Oh
be,
my God, this
but,
is ridiculous.
we'll
Okay,
do it.
we are going to do this as a doodle poll. Who is going to
Make the doodle?
create and circulate it?
I'll make the doodle.
Yay! You're the best. All right.
Someone
Yeah,
knows
I'll
how to
make
do it.
So I'm gonna include April and May, or we're trying to
Yes.
get this done before May.
I think April and early May is okay.
Yes.
April and early May, okay.
I think earlier would be better personally.
Yeah.
Yes,
Indeed.
yes.
And we need to land on 2
It's
dates.
a pick 2. We'll take the 2 that have the most available.
Okay.
Last year we did it May 29th,
That was too
We'll
late.
take
Week.
it,
We
you know.
had done it-
just because of this.
we
I
had
know.
done- We had done in June before.
Ugh. Horrible. All right.
Chris
Thanks
is
again.
getting excited there, he's
Something
waiting
I
for us
can
to
do.
move on.
I know. And now we are. Item 8, the ReArch construction updates on total project budget figures in the library renovation and expansion project. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Andy. It's been a lively, fun meeting so far, appreciate that. So tonight we're reporting on an awful lot of effort from a lot of different people. Hi Dana, I think Judith's on as well. For over many months leading to this culmination where we hopefully after tonight start construction in less than a week. And we know that this timeline has been quite compressed as we work through sending out invitations to subcontractor bidders locally, regionally, and so on to collect. We sent out upwards to 400 letters of interest and so on. We had ultimately 74 bidders for all of the different trades. It's a unique time in the industry, right? Has been a unique time. It takes a lot of effort to actually encourage the subcontractors to bid on most of the trades. So we're very, very excited. We've been, frankly, it's a very unique project in many ways. And I can't the emphasis on the quantity of details around the building and the fact that it's a very urban setting creates some complications. Not all the subs really want to play in that sandbox. So with that, we've been frankly pretty concerned about the overall budget. So we're very, very excited to be able to present that we're $109,000 under the budget that we've established at bond vote time, quite a long time ago, leading to this point. You know, as Farhad and Dan and Dana and Judith would attest, and Joe McVeigh, all the other team players, there have been some challenging, you know, sacrifices that have been made to ensure that we're getting to this point. So you always start with the dreams and goals and wishes and hope that you can get as close as we did. We didn't have to cut any program. That was first and foremost to Dana in the instructions to us, the design and construction team. So with that, we also, as noted previously, even at bond vote time, we have a number of these project alternatives that we always use in municipal projects to help balance the budget. You can either add or take away from to make sure you're landing on that budget. So we're in a very good position starting off the construction. That $109,000 that we're under budget, we would highly recommend that we're going to slide that right over to the owner's contingency, which stands currently at $630,000. Add the $109,000, go into construction, commence construction with that quantity of funds available should things come up through the process of construction. So with that, you know, we have the subcontractors in place. We've sent our contract amendment reflecting these bid results from subcontractors to town council, who is currently in the process of reviewing. And as we say, fairly short amount of time, because it really took us longer to evaluate the bid results and encourage bidders to submit bids and so on. So that therein lies the reasonably quick turnaround from tonight to the mobilization on site. Monday the 17th has been planned for a very, very long time. We're still planning a groundbreaking ceremony that's not a date certain yet, but probably after we get settled and the site is safe. That's obviously first and foremost as well. I don't think there's any need to go into the project alternatives now. Those can be decisions that happen down the road. Frankly, some of them I think are pretty obvious that they won't be taken or considered in the project. Either there's no value to take like the $10,000 deduct to go to a thinner membrane for the roof instead of 80 mil, go down to it's like, no, we're not doing that. That's a durability issue. We don't need to take that. We're already under budget. Strike that one. Don't even consider it. So, as I say, we can really dial in on some of those other alternatives further down the road. They're not time critical.
Can I ask a question about the overall budget?
Yes.
The amount that was approved in May by the voters was $16,995,000.
That's right.
So Judith and her clerk of the works report number 10 said the total project cost is $16,338,838.
That's right.
So the difference is $661,000.
Yes, and that's
so.
Yep.
Isn't that more than the amount you said?
Yep, Fred.
We may chew that up with tariffs, depending on.
Yeah, not so much tariffs. You'll see, Fred, those have been carried previously. Those are the rebates that we're anticipating through the geothermal tax credits. That we're still hopeful
tax credits.
Those are credits.
Do we take tax credits? We don't. How does the town get a tax credit? I understand a grant or a rebate, but how does
you get you'll effectively get a rebate at the end of construction.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't think we filed taxes.
Yeah, so those have been really considered as part and parcel of the project ever you know, from the beginning, even from bond vote time. So that's where we land at the 16.3 million.
Right.
Now, Fred, I will say, as I mentioned, that that 109,000 that we're under budget, we wanted to show that as such on this diagram because this is the total project budget worksheet that the select board has seen before. Once we move forward, we're going to take that 109,000, as I mentioned, and push it up into the owner's contingency of 630. So those two numbers will total, you know, 739,000.
Okay.
Is the owner's contingency starting to move forward?
Sounds more comfortable.
Yeah, agreed.
Presumably, we haven't spent all these owner costs, some of them perhaps.
That is absolutely right, Fred, that as in past projects that Judith and I have worked on with the town, we will use this document as our tracking tool, our budget tracking tool, to make sure as expenses are encumbered and coordinating with Dana, we will plug in all of those owner costs so that we're not losing anything or missing. Some are going to be up above, some are going to be down, and some sort of in between. And that's where the other aspect of the owner's contingency comes into play.
So the 109 is developed from the first column, the 90% estimate, to what you got for bidding. What's the difference between those two? Is that where that's coming from?
No, it's
Where is it coming from?
yeah. It's complicated a little bit by the fact that we were further over budget at the 90% construction document phase. So that was the last one that the select board saw, was that 90% column. The 109,000 relates back to the bond vote.
I think that what Fred's looking for and what I'm looking for is what number is off from the bond vote by $109,098, and I'm not sure which one it is either. Maybe that's the wrong question to ask, but I think that we're both at that same point of like,
okay,
shouldn't there be a number that differs from the bond amount by that?
Yeah, it was the previous, comparing the 16.3 was a
Yep.
16.424 million.
Great, so it's a
That's-
reduction from a prior,
Yes,
not
yes.
equal to the bond number.
Yeah, it
That's
doesn't have
exactly
to equal
right.
the bond.
Sorry.
Perfect, there we
Yeah,
go.
we could've-
I think we're set.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has been frankly a little bit confusing with these rebates and incentives.
Yeah, certainly. Very good. That helps.
When you say there's time for these alternates to be considered, I guess I was under the impression that you needed to have things nailed down and that amending the contract from this point forward is a very challenging and costly thing to do.
Yeah, Fred, like,
These are all like finish.
yeah,
They're
looking
finished
at,
stuff, right?
right.
We're not gonna see them right.
Except for the fireplace, man.
Just
they're
the whole has to be
they're
covered.
all relatively finished items, meaning the kitchenette is something that Dana has already expressed as something that would be, again, highly functional, and that's where we've been driving the project is what is the functionality, the programming, and durability, like those key aspects. Painting the exposed ductwork is one that, because we have a CLT, a wood ceiling, having a raw, galvanized ductwork and exposed without painting it was something that we saw as a cost savings measure. Here it's less than $10,000. It's probably something that would be accepted, but that's a decision that can happen way down the road. We do not need it right now. We want to get out of the ground. We want to see how the project is progressing. And the same is true with the fireplace, which is within the existing great room.
Gotcha.
So that can also be added quite a bit down the road.
Chris, where might we anticipate the most variability in the budget, like in any of the projects that you're working on right now, when it comes to tariffs, when it comes to rebates? What are we maybe most worried about?
Yeah,
Prices
sure.
fluctuating.
Yeah, sure, Izzy. That's a great question. It's like, what is the risk, right? We're always balancing in construction. What is the risk issue, the risk profile? I would say you know, coming out of the ground is always something, if we happen to find something that's buried, if we anticipate more soils, additional soils that are unsuitable, that happened right here. Like as soon as we started digging, there was more soft material that had to be moved out so that it would support the building. So that's one risk area. To be perfectly blunt, I was at a conference today all day with industry professionals. All we talked about was tariffs.
Right.
No one could agree on the impact or the timing or anything about tariffs. So it is a risk. There's no question. Now, one of our benefits, as an example, our steel package is American made. Now, we cautiously anticipated that and sought American steel, got it as a low bid. Great benefit. There are other areas, though, that do have risk for potential tariffs. And that is something that we excluded from our contract amendment as something we just could not possibly anticipate. Other than that, Izzy, there really isn't, you know, we take on a lot of the risk in this project because it's design build. So there's a lot of things that are frankly on our area of risk. If a subcontractor of ours fails, that's our problem, not yours, not the town's. So the tariffs are the big one, I would say, and then getting up and out of the ground.
Thanks.
Other questions or comments?
So I'll move to authorize the town manager to execute the ReArch company's contract amendment for the construction phase of the Ilsley Library project, reflecting the updated total project figures.
Second. You can give it to Farhad.
Oh, thank you.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is so exciting. By our next meeting.
Yay, Dana!
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Thank you all.
And Dana.
Thanks, Chris.
Yes, and Dana's here for item 14, our congressionally directed spending. Hi, Dana.
Hi, everyone. I don't have a whole lot to add other than what's already in your packet. I'm requesting authorization to submit a request for congressionally directed funding from Senator Welch's office. This is the 4th time we will be submitting an application for CDS funding. First time was to Senator Leahy, then Senator Sanders, last year to Senator Welch, and this year to Senator Welch again. This is the 2nd year we'll be applying through the Save America's Treasures program. So that's, you know, because the library's on the National Historic Register, we qualify to apply for funding through that program. The cap that you can apply for is $500,000. That's what we're requesting.
Yep.
It's a pretty short application. We've got a lot of great letters of recommendation lined up. I'm hoping the select board will also agree to sign a letter of recommendation, which I think a draft is included in your packet. It's pretty similar to the one you signed last year. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. Obviously, there's a lot of discussion about whether some of the funding at the federal level will still be available in the future, and we can't know that. All we can do is apply, so
Right.
I'm gonna apply.
Perfect. That's the attitude. Any questions or comments?
Okay, I move to approve the congressionally directed spending application and the draft select board letter of support for the Ilsley Public Library to U.S. Senator Welch's office.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please indicate. Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, unanimous. Thank you so much, Dana.
Hey, Dana, quick question. How fabulous is your mini library doing?
Oh, it's so
Oh my gosh, we are so over
cute.
the moon.
Have
We
you been
are
there?
loving it. The space is great. The rate of returned books has slowed down, so we're not buried under an avalanche of books anymore. We're loving it. It's really, really great. Thanks for asking.
I know the community's loving it.
Yeah.
Just hear all kinds of positive stuff.
Yeah, we're getting lots of great feedback, which is exciting.
Great. Thank you for your leadership.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Awesome. All right, moving on, because it's 7:35, just like it says on the agenda. Item 9, the proposed town encampment policy and memorandum of understanding.
Alrighty. So, just a brief background, because I know we've gone through this a few times. This is an assignment that the board sent to one of its committees late last summer. The policy review committee reviewed both practices in other towns, communicating with local or town officials, related town officials, local social service agencies, and a variety of constituents who had a variety of thoughts and opinions to share. We also met with the Public Health and Safety Committee, the Homelessness Task Force, which is a regional group of agency staff and representatives. We initially brought forth a draft to you at your February 11th meeting. The consensus from the board in that initial review was that we needed to shift it slightly to a less stringent position. So the changes you saw last meeting were essentially shrinking somewhat the list of locations that would be an absolute ban, instead putting more words into the factor section to empower the town manager to look for if and when an encampment does arise in a place that's not automatically forbidden. Those factors would then be applied on a case-by-case basis. So this is a product and an outcome of quite a bit of discussion and debate and looking at what other towns have done and talking to other town staff to understand the practical outcomes. We do recognize that if we need to utilize the policy, we will, and we can always come back here if town staff and we reach a consensus that maybe it's not sufficient, but nothing can't be, it can always be changed. That's the good part. The police chief is here, I believe. There he is in the back. If you have any questions for him. Heidi unfortunately wasn't able to make it tonight, but did send a letter to Andy and Brian, just once again, Heidi Lacey from the Charter House, once again voicing her support. She and Susan from the John Graham Housing Group have also been a part of this process the whole way. So it's very much been a sort of a consensus-driven effort, and here we are with this latest draft. The MOU is just an accompanying document that lays out some of the logistical day-to-day steps that would take place if and when an encampment issue arose. And that's the 2-minute version.
That's a good version.
Okey doke.
Just because I like it so much, I'm going to read a little bit from Heidi's letter from yesterday. For what it's worth, Charter House is in support of the town's approval of the latest version and is prepared to sign the MOU as the primary contact. Members of the Addison County Housing Coalition have each had an opportunity to review and be part of this process over the past few months. Agencies are committed to supporting the town's efforts as outlined. Given the upcoming nuances of construction and warmer weather, it is the opinion of the service providers that getting this policy approved prior to spring would allow our outreach team to prepare with more guidance and clarity for the people we serve.
And the only reason we didn't act at the last meeting was because town council just finished their review and we didn't want to vote on something we had just gotten word earlier that day.
Right.
So
yeah.
Heidi did make the request that the MOU be directly with Charter House and that they would act as a coordinating group for any other agencies that need to be, it's a good thing. It simplifies the MOU. It's now 2 groups, us and Charter House, not a third party. So, and there we are.
Great.
I would move to adopt the proposed encampment policy and authorize the town manager to enter into the related memorandum of understanding.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Sorry.
Yes, Laura.
I totally support it. I've been with that all along. Relatedly, the portalet that's behind Ilsley,
Yes.
we talked about where does that go
Yeah.
temporarily, and we thought it made sense to move it to the Academy Street parking lot where it had been before, so it has access to anybody that's waiting over there.
Sure.
Does that sound?
That sounds reasonable.
Public Works been in?
Yeah, so Public Works coordinated the removal simply because it has to go in preparation for the construction project, who will have their own bathrooms. As we talked about, we can figure out where we'd like it to go elsewhere. I think they put it over by the...
Did they already move it?
I believe they already moved it, yeah. It's not back there right now. So.
It's not there, though?
It's not when I looked out the window earlier today, unless they moved it somewhere else. So at any rate...
they didn't put it over at Academy then, when they moved it?
I'd have to check with Public Works about where they moved it to. But either way, we could certainly ask the vendor if we wanted to place it in one of those previous locations.
We already
They
have.
just removed it right now.
I believe so,
They didn't
yeah.
place it in a new spot yet.
I will find that out for you tomorrow morning, but I don't know
Okay.
right now.
I think, so we definitely will benefit from having the extra.
Understood.
Mhm.
Agreed. Thank you. Academy Street is the cross street at the edge of the college with the bus stop on it, the covered bus stop. Sorry to answer your barely asked question. All right. Very good. And moving on. Item 10, the town capitalization policy. Presentation and discussion from our finance director, Nick Gill. Welcome.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Very well.
Okay. So I know you are all extremely excited about this.
Tingling about this one.
Yeah, so this is one of those things that's kind of been on my wish list for a long time. It affects absolutely no one other than myself. No one cares about this other than myself and the auditors. And so basically the background here is not everything that we buy is truly an expense. A lot of things we have to capitalize first and then expense over time. And what those things are is fully dictated by this policy that you see in front of you, although that's the new one that we're trying to move toward. And so some of my issues that I've run into in the past are just kind of clarity items, trying to figure out what a certain piece of equipment really, how many years it should be depreciated over, what thresholds. There's a lot of minutia that can kind of get confusing if you look at that one, because you've got quite a few different, what I would call examples on the left-hand side that are under the asset type category, column. And then it goes into more examples. And then it goes into a total of 8 different categories of life expectancy.
Yeah.
And so it gets really difficult to understand, okay, this specific piece of equipment, how many years should it really be depreciated over? We run into this with PD, we run into this with DPW. I would say equipment is definitely the one that we run into the most with issues, but also upfits on vehicles. Sometimes, you might think it should be capitalized, and other times you might expense it. So I've tried to add some clarity on upfits, especially. We are just going to treat them as part of the vehicle, just as a matter of policy. Thresholds are also pretty low in the existing policy. Anything over $3,000, which is pretty much everything. I'm having to add to spreadsheets, add into our system, and then calculate depreciation on over time, and it just gets really cumbersome, and it's completely unnecessary. So I've really tried to bring that up to a more standardized level of 10,000 for equipment. Infrastructure also, it's one of the things that $25,000 isn't going to get you anywhere. So we've raised that to $50,000. And I think the only other thing that I've tried to raise is vehicles. I'm not sure, we don't buy a lot of used vehicles, so I'm not sure if that will do me any good. Taking it from 3,000 to 10,000, but putting that in there just in case. And so really the big picture here is it just really simplifies my job and keeping compliant with the auditors, and every year on our audit report we kind of get dinged that there's holdups as far as capitalization goes, and I think this is going to go a long way to clearing that hurdle. And
Can you explain that a little bit more? What are the holdups to capitalization?
it's just really cumbersome.
That it's not,
we're trying to-
that the accounting isn't caught up with the books that they're looking at?
well, there's disagreement, okay, should this have been capitalized or not, you
Gotcha.
know? Even leases, you know, they have to claw back and look throughout the entire year and say, okay, well, this lease on, you know, police equipment, really that should have been a capital item that has a whole different set of rules. And yeah, I mean, in the past, pretty much everything was expensed, and then the auditors handled all of our capitalization. So they pull hundreds of invoices, they go retroactively to try to figure out what should have been capitalized, what shouldn't have, what is the life, you know. We've come a very long way since then in terms of identifying those things proactively, capitalizing them first, trying to add them into our system, and then being able to run depreciation and stuff before the auditors even get there. So we've come a long way, but avoiding any disagreements or confusion on some of the fringe items would help a lot.
Simpler seems good. Does NEMRIC handle capitalization, or do you do that, depreciation, or do you do that outside?
Well, they have a module which we did have. It wasn't used in the past. Okay. So it allows you to put in information, give it a asset number. We're trying to work. We had a meeting not long ago with DPW. We're trying to work with them to kind of identify certain things before, you know, they make it to the AP process, so that we just have another set of eyes on it and get a heads up early on that, okay, this vehicle, because here's another thing, if we purchase a vehicle but it hasn't arrived yet, well, that's a whole nother thing. That's work in progress is what they call it. So getting, you know, early heads up helps. So yeah, it's an extremely complicated, much more complicated than I ever thought it could be, process, and yeah, we're coming a long way.
Great.
So it wasn't put on the agenda as an action item simply because it's brand new. We didn't want to just show up and say, please change it, but we can.
Is this something that
It's a town policy.
Create? Okay.
It's your policy that's been on the books, so it would need your approval to change.
Yeah.
That's why we're bringing it here. So since it wasn't advertised as an action item, I would suggest as a pathway forward, we simply will bring it back next week and advertise it as such, and you would approve it in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Yeah, okay.
And yeah.
Does this change things that are in the operating budget now to capital, like when we pave a road?
Really, no. Overwhelmingly, I mean, you're budgeting on a cash basis, so money in, money out. It's not going to affect your budget. You know, you might be the select board member that really does see a difference here, Fred.
Me?
In terms of the financials.
What about that? Hey.
But no, it's not going to affect budgeting.
So I had a prior life in another town, and there we used like our total depreciation to kind of figure out what our capital investment should be on a yearly basis to maintain all of our current built infrastructure. Is that sensible, Nick? Is that an approach to budgeting for capital expenses and deterioration?
I think it definitely is, and I think that Emily, you know, effectively does that, probably more accurately than we are, even for financial accounting purposes.
Yeah.
So
one
yes,
concern,
I think you're on the right track.
One concern related to what I think we've all heard, right? They're like, we were okay with the expensive library, but we didn't realize that there was also this major wastewater expense coming 2 years later, right? Is that having kind of a global view of the depreciation of the municipal structures and when things are coming due would, having the sense that at least this board understood that, I think might help create some more confidence among residents.
Yep.
Yeah.
Capital
improvements
Mike, would you like to?
This is a kind of in the weeds question. So this is Mike Roy. I work at the college, and we capitalize lots of things, and it helps our balance sheet, which then helps us have a better credit rating. So I don't know if that's true in a municipal context, but that's just the question I have: is does it actually improve the terms you get when you borrow money?
Nice.
I would highly doubt it, and these are such fringe items that in terms of our effect on the balance sheet, I think it's extremely low. I mean, most of our balance sheet is going to be big infrastructure projects, things of that nature, and most of the work that's involved is the small pieces of equipment, things that I don't think add up very quickly.
Yeah. Other questions or comments on the capitalization policy?
Okay. So we'll advertise it as for a decision for the next meeting and
sounds great.
Take it from there.
Nick, I am super in favor of any simplifications that make the information that flows to us easier to digest, that makes your job easier or the auditor's job easier without sacrificing useful distinctions. So please bring them to us where we need to be involved.
Will do.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
All right. Can I find the agenda again? I think I can. 11. The 2025 Middlebury Town Plan Introduction and Pathway Forward with Jen Murray. Welcome, Jen.
Well, thank you. Welcome again. Yay. Hey, Fred. I'm not going to make any jokes at your expense. I was picking on you today.
Okay. Wow.
But you were a planner before this, so you're used to it, right? We get all the abuse.
7 town plans.
7 town plans? Wow. All right. Maybe you should do the presentation.
Every 7 years, that's 49.
David, can I share your
No,
screen?
there was 5 years.
Oh, okay, good.
If there's,
Although a couple
you have
years-
separate another document?
Yeah, I don't like those
We've
ones.
got 6 or 7.
I can do better.
I'm not sure if she can broadcast on if that's on.
Are you on right now?
I am.
Perfect. If you can join the Zoom.
Oh, it says unable to join.
Interesting.
I was on it.
You were on.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to maybe log off and jump back on, and it should pop up here.
I can go ahead and promote you as soon as you pop in.
Like we should have fill-in entertainment.
A little technical interlude here. What do you mean Buell's Gore doesn't have a town plan? How can that be?
All 100 people don't need it?
You think there's
Jen,
100
if you-
people?
If
in
you'd like,
Buell's
if
Gore?
you
I
email it
don't
to me
know.
right
That's
now,
a
I'll
wild
run
guess.
upstairs and just add it to the website. Oh,
I'd
there we
be
go.
surprised if there's
Never mind.
30.
We good.
This is a 2016 document.
Okay.
What is?
It's what's in our packet.
The one in the packet.
Oh, okay.
Jen.
Yeah, pandemic.
Should be clear to share too.
Newcomers to
Yeah.
Buell's Gore.
Maybe.
I love Buell's Gore.
You do?
And all the Gores.
There we go, guys.
29.
Yay!
Is there really a place?
Yeah. Plenty of business up here.
Right there?
Chittenden County, apparently.
Good stuff. So, this is the year 2025 when
Yay.
we update the town plan that hasn't been updated since 2017. And we've done so much work since 2017, so it's a great opportunity to talk about all the great things the town has done and then also aspire for the future. I just want to talk really quickly about, so you got to see what was in your packets.
Yes.
Basically, a comprehensive town plan or town plan contains vision and actions, and they sort of trickle down to guide policy and influence town decisions, like in very basic terms. And so examples of that might be zoning changes. You know, your zoning changes should be informed by your town plan. Ours were kind of informed by the downtown master plan, but now that the downtown master plan will be incorporated in the town plan, everything will be all straightened out. Select board policies, maybe the policy committee can use the town plan a little, grant applications, projects, initiatives, capital planning. Town plan is a great resource and guidance document for all of those activities. A couple misconceptions about the town plan. Sometimes folks, not yourselves, I'm going to look at you, but I'm like kind of thinking of like the audience that you will host at some point. Like a lot of folks think that the town plan is like a regulatory tool. Some folks want to like weaponize the town plan and like use it to like make things happen, but really it's not in and of itself a regulatory tool. It's just that guidance document. Zoning references it. So when you're doing a conditional use review, it references the town plan, so it feels like a regulatory tool during DRB hearings sometimes, but really it's still, I would say, a guidance document in that case too.
Is it introduced ever in DRB hearings?
Yeah, so when you do a conditional use review, there's a list of review criteria,
Yeah.
and one of them is, does this conform to the town plan?
Okay.
It's also an Act 250 criteria.
Okay.
And, the town plan has had more specific language in it in the past that has been used in decisions. And, this varies over time, depending on more
on the
often the
DRB,
town
yeah.
plan is aspirational and less tending to be regulatory. But statutes do say that the zoning must be in conformance with the town plan.
Can we get Jennifer to give her a presentation?
Do you like hearing? Do you like hearing things slowly and at that level of detail, or do you like hearing it rabbit style, like I say it? Like Fred's got a really helpful, different style, I think.
Okay.
Is it good to hear things
If you're
twice?
comfortable with him taking over, go ahead.
Well, he's not taking over. He's just supplementing. It's okay. I don't feel
Okay.
that way.
Okay.
I think that was useful. Sorry, I was just wondering where else.
And I would
where it's
say,
used.
when Fred was the planner, like the town plan got more use in applications, like when you guys were getting, like a grocery store and things like that. Like I've used it less. I mostly just use it in that conditional use review. So I think you're getting my perspective, and I'm glad that we've got Fred's perspective too. But it's an immensely important document. And the second point is that it's a living document. So sometimes folks are like, oh, I didn't get my thing in there. That's okay. You don't need to wait for 8 years to update the town plan. You can update it, as you go along if something big comes up that you want in there.
Have there been amendments to this since it was adopted?
Nope.
Okay, but
Nope.
there can be.
Because just, I guess the style of planner I am, I was like, I'm not gonna play around with a town plan, but I'm gonna do a downtown master plan, and we're gonna do a bike ped plan.
Yeah.
So we have all these other plans, which is maybe a good segue to this. I just wanted to,
Big turkey.
yeah. So the town plan is the big turkey, right? And then there's these like little plans that are underneath it. So other types of like minor plans that are sort of underneath the town plan are, like the downtown master plan, bike ped plan, hazard mitigation plan. He likes it. See, Izzy read ahead. She knows what.
Well,
Maybe the 2028 climate action plan will be another plan. Conservation Commission's been doing a lot of work. You might have a conservation and open space plan at some point, a trails plan. You might even have a transportation plan that incorporates that bike ped plan but talks about roads too. And then there's other plans and studies, just to avoid any confusion. Sometimes we hear about like a parking management plan, or if the Energy Committee wanted to start and do a climate action strategy, that might not even be a mini plan, and it's certainly not a town plan. So we do lots of different plans and studies.
That's very helpful.
These aren't all things that have been done. Some are aspirational.
Right.
Yeah, I can see why
Yeah,
they
okay.
said that, yes. But, because I didn't know the relationship between this and the downtown master plan. But in the last part of the town plan has lots of action items. So do we actually accomplish those action items? Do we track those? Do we have a tracking system
Yeah, good
to
question,
do this?
'cause that's always the first
Does it come
question I
into
get.
other, obviously mitigates into these other master plans, but is there someplace in your office I can go in and see the status of all these action items? There's a gazillion in there, I know.
Yeah. There was over 140 action items in the downtown master plan alone.
Yeah.
So we haven't done them all, but we pick away at them little by little. I don't sweat it in terms of like how's your performance, because to me it's a vision document, so it's like sort of a resource for ideas.
Okay.
I've actually banged out a lot of them that I was able to control. So like all of them that kind of relate to regulatory updates, we've done a lot of those. But like recommendations such as, form an arts consortium between Town Hall Theater and the Sheldon and in the college, blah, blah, blah. We haven't done that yet because that might rely on somebody else to do it.
Is there any actions that get put in this that have to be done, and maybe some that should be done and some that maybe? Is there any any correlation to figure that out in here? I mean, I don't see it. I just wonder if that would be important.
Yeah, I mean, it could be important to you, and I don't want to tell you how you should feel
Okay.
about the implementation section of the town plan. Myself, I feel like that kind of like really like doing something on a particular timeline is more like this last list of plans, these plans and strategies.
Mhm.
You know, like when you have like if the energy committee, sorry to keep using this example, if the energy committee were to say, you know, we want to do a bunch of projects, but these are the ones that are really important to us, they might want to create an internal strategy penned by, I always tell them, sign it on the bottom, energy committee, you know, of like their action strategy. And so those might be the ones that you want to bang out first. And then you might have a climate action plan above that that has more general recommendations that you get to slowly over time.
Okay.
But you could create an implementation matrix in the town plan. You could use that. You could really use that as your guidance document for all of your actions, and you could have columns in that implementation matrix, I guess. Yeah.
Seems like it would help us in our planning, what we think, but.
The risk of talking too much, Dan, I just cite one or two things that the town has been divided on in past years. The big one was, where should the bridge go?
Uh-huh.
The Cross Street Bridge. And another was the whole initiative to focus on the downtown. And that spawned the first downtown plan that we had. Jen has updated and created the Downtown Improvement District Commission that you are on. So I'm not sure, the town has come a long way from some of those earlier times, and that the nature of development activities changed too. Housing, there are some things that are enduring, we seem to never, but affordable housing has been every plan, every single one. And not to say we shouldn't continue with, but anyway.
Thanks.
It can be a useful tool to engage the community, and
I just don't hear it come up in here before the select board very often, and you probably do, and I just don't remember. But
Yeah, I think personally, a lot of my focus has been on the things that are in that list, other types of minor plans.
yeah, the downtown master.
Yeah, and I think that you'll find that among a lot of planners my age.
Okay.
I think that we are less into I think, I'm now making you sound old. I'm not
I'm
trying
old.
to say.
He's less of the big turkey and more of the small turkeys.
This new crop of planners are more interested in these little like specific plans
Sure.
that sort of fall out of the comprehensive plan. But I think maybe in the 70s, 80s, 90s, there's a lot more focus on like the comp plan, the overall master plan. I think that life is more complicated now in some ways, and so some of these minor plans I think get us further. I don't know. But that's just my own personal opinion. You could have a different planner sitting here who would say a different thing. In fact, probably got a different opinion too.
life has changed.
Yeah.
Jen, off of that, so you're talking about these other plans that you're working on. Do you find that other communities in Vermont are also doing the smaller turkeys as well?
Yeah. Like I think of it as like a DVD box set. Like if you want the complete box set, then you want to have like your comp plan, and then you want to have a downtown master plan if you've got a downtown like ours. So that's why that was the first plan I tried to undertake. I was like, ooh, that would really help. And there was one done like in the 70s. I think, there was like other efforts, but like a new fresh one was good. Bike ped plan, absolutely. Hazard mitigation plan is clutch. Open space plan, I'm surprised we don't have an open space plan. Climate action plan. Yeah, I would say that that's your box set. And then like trails plan, transportation plan, I would say are like less obvious, but yeah. So that's what your planning director does, like in the background, just tries to think about how to keep collecting the DVDs for the full set.
Can I ask a question about the schedule? So the planning committee's been working on this for this past year, correct? Or
I do have a slide on schedule. We're just not there quite yet.
Okay,
we're
all
really
right.
close though. Oh yeah, here it is actually.
I
Okay,
knew it
thanks,
was
Dan.
coming, but go ahead.
No, this was it. So the update occurs every 8 years. Last update was 2017. It's due in October, which like is technically November 28th of 2025. But like we're just really targeting October. So if the planning commission completes a draft between May and June, then that means we can have the planning commission can have the first of one hearing required by law in July. And then the select board is required by law to have 2 hearings, so you could have one in August or September, one in October or November. And David's gonna have to be crafty about how he warns them, because there's laws and rules for at least 30 days apart in the paper, yada yada.
Yeah, my question was coming from the fact I went on under the 2025 town plan on the website, and it said early in 2025 the Planning Commission and Select Board will hold public hearings, and then it said in November the Planning Commission plans to distribute the survey and hold public meetings in November. I thought public meetings would come before public hearings, but so we don't have any public meetings. Well, we do. We have.
Sounds like you found an old schedule on the website, and I don't even remember making that schedule.
Yeah, I didn't see a schedule, so I looked on here and was just reading about it.
Take it down and update it.
So is there going to be any opportunity for other than hearings for the community, or is that the way you typically get public input, is through hearings? That's legit. I have no idea.
Well, I would just say that depends on what is new and controversial that comes up in the plan. My experience has been that after a hearing, people come out and say, we really think these land use changes that are mandated under some recent laws that Jen will tell you about, that introduce new things that towns have to show on their maps. We're concerned about that, and we want to change this language about it, or change the map or something, and then that consumes a bit of time. So there may be a meeting after that to discuss what amendments should happen, then warn the second hearing. So it doesn't happen so mechanically, so quickly all the time. People do focus a lot on the map, because the plan map has to conform with the zoning map, and that gets into people's notions of what they want their zone to be, and it's a problem. People look at maps like this, and so that can happen.
And as far as like the public input that we take this time around, we did that Planapalooza thing in 2020 for the downtown master plan that was so comprehensive, and we got so much good input in all these different subject areas that parallel the town plan subject areas. So I feel good about that input that we collected. And then since then, with the bike ped plan, we did another survey to the community, and we asked questions that were beyond just bike ped to see how that went. We had a kickoff meeting for some master planning, and we had an intern with us who put up some big poster boards and had people sticker vote, and then they were in the lobby for a long time. You probably saw those.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They were kind of a blast, because people just like over time they just sort of balanced out the stickers so that everything looked equal, and like you're not helping. But fortunately I took pictures during it, so I can show you like when the stickers actually, and then we also did that postcard project with BMP, which is a really fun little partnership with us in the future. So
that's great. Those are great.
If I was seeing like a big like change in terms of people's input, I might want to do more surveying, but we're hearing the same thing most of the time. So this is the table of contents. These are the chapters in the town. I'm sorry, I should introduce Jeff. Jeff is here today from the Planning Commission. So if you have any questions for him, yeah. So these are all the different chapters. We kind of played around with the different chapters, but I think the chapters in the end are going to closely resemble the chapters that are in the town plan now. I could talk through these chapters and tell you what some of the changes are going to be, but that sounds a little boring for this time of night, personally.
What does colors mean?
Okay, so I'm just going to go into some cool, colorful slides, which is better for like almost 2/3.
What do the red and blue colors mean?
Oh, just, I guess that was just internal coding, like housing and land use are the sections that I've spent the most time writing, because that's really where a lot of our efforts have been since 2017, so there's a lot to say in those chapters. Those will be long ones. And then the blue ones, natural and scenic resources and energy, thank you for bringing that up, are sections that we got a lot of help from the Conservation Commission and the Energy Committee on. So you're going to hear some of the Energy Committee's work, and like, yeah, it's been a really positive process. It's been really great. So, and then I probably should have coded transportation blue, to tell you the truth too, because the bike ped plan in itself is a huge boon to the transportation section. So, yeah. So on the topic of housing and land use, I have this little timeline, but you kind of can't see it too well. Shoot.
Right.
I made some paper copies for you too, but the timeline basically shows the things that we did to address the housing shortage. So I heard us say earlier, you know, like, oh, we can't really take credit for the summit project. And even though we can't financially, we can take a lot of credit for having feathered that nest. So they would not have come here, they would not, and Zeke will back me up all day long, they would not have come here, they would not have done what they did if we weren't like completely ready for them at the right time. And they also couldn't have gotten all the ARPA funds that they did for transportation and also that missing middle housing that they supplemented if we hadn't been ready, like shovel ready at exactly the right time when those ARPA funds came through. So we got lucky, but it was also the result of some good planning. So I'm gonna try to put this in our plans so that we can all be proud of it. But it started back in 2019 when we started doing our Planapalooza and we got our Better Connections grant for the Downtown Master Plan. The Downtown Master Plan was adopted in November 2020. And so that sets the groundwork and continues to this day to set the groundwork for the public having said, yes, we want more density in downtown. You know, we're okay with taller buildings and more compact development forms and infill, and you know, there's also a lot of local economy and other recommendations in there, but I was able to kind of use that housing input as the groundwork for proceeding forward with those zoning changes that we did in 2022. Because Fred's right, sometimes people react really badly to zoning maps, and nobody even made a whisper about this, and I really think part of it was the fact that people engaged so well in the downtown master plan process that they saw it coming for those downtown neighborhoods. So even before you approved the downtown master plan in 2020, we were already getting municipal planning funds in 2019 for a bylaw update. And there were a lot of distractions at the time. We were trying to work on downtown. I think that a couple of your retreats were still devoted to Nextbridge at that time. But Kathleen, me, the Planning Commission really tried to do you proud and keep our eye on the ball with housing. And we made sure we got that grant. We hired a consultant in 2019. We had COVID. It was 2022 by the time we were able to bring you that bylaw update. I could talk about the things that we updated in that bylaw, but maybe the most important thing that we did was create an update that, well, we did an audit in 3 different ways. We audited our zoning to see what we could add to implement the downtown master plan, and we did an audit to fix things that were just broken or like, you know, legal updates. And then the third way that we did the audit was looking at it through the lens of qualifying for an NDA designation, and I'll talk about an NDA designation in a second, but the changes that we made allowed us to qualify for the NDA designation. Without that designated boundary, the Summit project couldn't have happened, so it was just all this hustle from like back in 2019, so kudos to the town, you know, for like doing this the right way. 2023, you had your NDA approved. April was when Zeke turned in his tax credit application. It came just in time for him to turn in his tax credit application. The NDA is a checkbox that allows him to get those tax credits to do the affordable housing. The Home Act finally came puttering along in June 2023, and Middlebury's like, yeah, see you later, we already did all that stuff. So it's great, like we were way ahead of the Home Act that everyone talks about. And then July 2024, we got the Stonecrop Meadows project approved, which is good. That's your NDA district in yellow, and the maroon is the downtown area. So you're only supposed to have an NDA district that's within a half mile of downtown. You're not supposed to go beyond a half mile. But I was able to, I would say it was me. Like I was able to negotiate successfully with DHCD and get them to expand it to some other areas. So some of those you'll see are vacant parcels. Some of them are owned by Middlebury College. Yeah, some are owned by Middlebury College.
Yeah.
So like it works with our zoning map, it works with the conversations I was having in the background with Middlebury. There were a lot of individual conversations where I was able to make a strong argument for why certain areas were developable and prime for development. So you'll see that the NDA is a good way of seeing where there's development potential in the future.
Yeah, let's build some water infrastructure.
Oh, for Happy Valley? Yeah. You know, actually, so when we did the NDA, they told us that they weren't inclined to extend all the way to Happy Valley until somebody took a look at the co-op parcel. I think the co-op parcel is going to be the sort of linchpin for getting out that far with the state designation. So if anyone is going to do the co-op, talk to me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What is the co-op parcel? This
the big one on the upper right there.
Yeah.
Yes, it's this one.
Yeah.
So
the
to get to
college
Happy
owns
Valley
that, right?
here, you really have to start
No,
to develop
cooperative
that
insurance
first.
companies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
And they want to see pedestrian connections, and they want to see
Okay.
some development happening there before they abandon.
On that point to Happy Valley Road on there, it's not.
It's way up-
It's just way up
off the
further.
map.
It's just off. I think
It's just off it. Yeah, got it. Okay, now I know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't forget the benefits of the NDA. Like, not only does it help like with affordable housing applications, but it allowed the summer project to be exempt from Act 250. And even if somebody didn't qualify to be exempt from Act 250, they get a 50% reduction on those application fees, exempt from land gains tax, and the natural resources fees for water and wastewater are capped at $50 too. So maybe just going back to that map for a second, that even helps people down by you, Farhad. You know, like, if no capital gains tax if you sell your property someday or someone near you does. You know, they were able to extend it all the way down to Hannaford Plaza, which I thought was pretty generous of them.
So what are you saying about the capital gains?
Yeah, because it's in an NDA area, because it's in that yellow boundary,
Yeah.
then it's exempt from capital gains tax.
Oh, really?
Yeah, parcels within that when they're sold.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
You would know more
You
about.
mean the land gains tax?
You gotta sell them
Oh yeah, land gains. I'm sorry, I'm not a complete grown-up, so I don't understand all these
Well,
things.
Say that, when you're in an NDA and you sell a property, you're exempt from capital gains?
No, see, good thing Fred's here, huh?
Oh, I was gonna
Land
the
gains.
land gains tax is for speculation in land. Buy land, sell it quickly.
All right, now I feel like a
Higher
dope.
tax. You keep it a number of years, that tax rate goes down on the gain of that.
Got
Has
it.
to do with speculation in Vermont. It was created in the 70s or 80s.
They've got a website, I don't know.
Not what you think in terms of capital
We'll
gains.
talk about that more.
I sold too soon. I was just, that's, oh my God.
That's what you're thinking about.
I was sold it.
Oh, come on.
I'd be living in the Caribbean.
So, you know, another thing that we did since 2017 is I think we make good use of master planning as a tool for visualizing change. We do more master planning here than my planning cohorts in other towns. So think about all those little master plans that were in the downtown master plan, you know, like the St. Mary's site and Marble Works, like those have all been really helpful. This is a new one that we're working on down by the Amtrak rail platform using that $100,000 grant. I told you guys about that at one point in time.
Yep.
So that's coming along. It's not ready for prime time, that's why I like weirdly cropped it. There's a hold on federal funds right now, so we're not able to hold that public hearing yet. And then this was a good master plan that we did in, I think, around 2022 that just showed some different nodes of developments. So we're going to run out of room in downtown, and you know, many would say we already have, right? So at some point we're going to have to find other places to grow too, but we don't want to create sprawl by doing that. So we have to be like kind of intentional about where we want to do that. So we're lucky enough to have water and sewer down Route 7, but we don't want to make it look super sprawly, like just, you know, development all the way. So if we think about it in terms of nodes, like a node of mixed-use development at Boardman Street, another node of mixed-use development like where the Walcott Plaza is, Foot Street area, and another node of development down by Katy Road, then you're creating places for more development without it just being untrammeled sprawl. And this is not a new concept. I can't tell you how excited I was to go to the basement after I thought I came up with this idea, and I found a poster board that Fred had written up years ago. It was great. So I'm going to try to put a drawing like this in the town plans that we have it codified.
We had a whole Route 7 task force process some years ago. Kevin Newton was deeply involved with it, and other business owners.
Right, and we haven't replicated that
Big
yet.
conference at Rosie's.
So this is a perfect example of how the town plan precedes zoning changes. I would love to have these three nodes be mixed-use zoning. It makes all the sense in the world, because right now it's all protected highway district and there's no housing allowed in protected highway. But you know, you might be able to add housing at Walcott Plaza or other places. So, so yeah, put this in the town plan, and then you know a zoning change follows, and you make them all mixed use. Probably have another meeting like Fred's describing, just to let the property
I
owners know.
love
what
highway
the plan
noise
is.
if you're going to have housing next to Route 7.
Yeah.
They used to sound of singing tires. Sorry. Sure.
Maybe they'll be really energy efficient and soundproof. This is another master plan that you guys saw at a retreat way back. I came to retreat once. You guys never invited me back again, but I thought we had fun that time. This is Boardman Street. So that's the Saverin property owned by the college. There's a way to maybe put some units on one side of that property that aren't visible from Route 7. I would probably die if they put it right in the middle of that property because that's a valuable view shed. And then maybe even something on the other side. You know, this is, so master planning starts the conversation on this. I've shown this to some people at the college, the trustees have looked at it, got a little feedback from people, but you know, this is just the kind of tool that you use to continue to have those conversations and see if you can shake something loose.
The whole Adams Acres commercial subdivision had a residential component to the east, basically to the right of the green part. And it stopped when the Planning Commission required them to build a sidewalk to connect it to town, and sidewalk cost too much.
Mhm.
Robert Foster said, that's it.
That was on the developer to connect it 5 foot to town?
Yeah, we did this, you know, in South Ridge development to connect that to the town.
So that's similar.
Anyway, so I'm just showing a little history. Also, there's a lot of ledge in that land to the right. But
So with this one, the NDA area doesn't go quite that far, so we can't really get that conversation off the, you know, off the launching pad yet. And they've said that they would only extend the NDA that far if the sidewalk connection was extended from the Marriott down to Boardman Street. They want to see pedestrian connectivity before they approve this program for a particular area. So, you know, that's maybe something that we want in the capital plan at some point. That's not me just trying to influence you guys, it's just me saying, like, this is how a plan could produce, like, a decision that would help do a thing.
Would sidewalks like that be part of the PED bike plan or part of the?
Yeah, it's more like a capital project. We've already done alternatives analysis, so now it's ready for V-Trans funding to proceed to design. And so, yeah, if that were in the implementation matrix, it would probably have X's that show that it's nearly in the design phase now.
about money. Finding the money for it.
Right.
That grant went to Rogers Road this year. That's okay. Maybe next year. Oh yeah, so I guess at the end, I guess I figured you guys would just be like zonked out at that point. So like that's what I want to do for housing and land use. And then we've also got local economy and other things to add to those sections. But
So are there substantive changes being discussed right now that we should start to be aware of as this process gets rolling? I hate surprises, and I think that the more that we know where the planning commission is going, the better the reception will be when the changes come to us this summer.
So I just told you about a bunch of them.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the
So-
housing and land use are going to be the sections that I add the most junk to.
Okay.
And that's the junk I'm going to add.
Okay.
Like what we did, and
The nodal
the importance
pieces.
of NDAs,
Yeah.
the importance of master planning.
So what about Act 181, the forest blocks and wildlife corridors?
The what, Fred?
Forest
There's
blocks.
legislation that was passed at the state level requires our maps to, you explain it.
Yeah, that's the natural and scenic resources section. So, you know,
That may be new to some people.
yeah, so that's what I had asked at the beginning of the meeting. Do you want me to talk through these chapters and tell you what the significant changes are? I feel like it's
Not at
8:30
9
and
o'clock,
like
right.
that would be intense. I have a
Yeah.
second meeting with you guys. I'm coming to your next meeting. Do you want me to
Perfect.
do that at the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll just throw you like 3 or 4 things that are happening under
That
your
would be
section.
great.
Okay, cool. And Mike's gonna actually warm you up to that concept by talking to you about energy because he understands it
Amazing.
better than me. Okay.
Holy cow.
I'm starting to warm up right now.
And to answer
Always get
whoever's
warm at
question that
9
was, the
o'clock.
Conservation Commission totally came through on Act 171 and produced a map and some language, and Jeff is actually helping with that map too, so. Yeah.
Cool.
Jen, can you take your screen down before you go?
Oh, geez, thank you.
Thanks.
Good catch. Mike, I got this chair all warmed up for you.
All right.
Thanks, Jen.
You bet.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, thank you.
So you've got the slides?
Yep. We're just Jen's gonna disconnect from, and then we'll be able to, there we go.
Now that we've reached 8:05 p.m., it's time for agenda item 12, the Town Plan and Energy Committee, integrating energy and climate issues.
Yeah, so Jen and I have been working, and Alice has been my partner in crime on this, to working with the Planning Commission all fall to really think about where climate and energy intersect with all the different parts of this. And so I've put together this presentation. It's some of the early parts of it are kind of dark, so I decided to use some bright colors to lighten it down. So if you can go to the next slide. You should have seen this in the document I shared with you. So we shared with you two documents. So one is a series of sort of observations and recommendations for integration across the town plan. And then the second is a draft of the energy chapter, which we hope to call like energy and climate. And one of the things that we're trying to suggest is that, you know, energy and energy efficiency and sustainability aren't really the right words anymore. We really need to be talking about, if you can go to the next slide, the climate emergency. And so if you look around, floods, fires, hurricanes, drought, food insecurity, mass extinction, sea rise, climate migration, these are everything that we're reading about happening everywhere. So it's not local to Middlebury. All of this, not all of this will come directly to Middlebury, but we will be impacted by all of these things in the future. And so part of the idea behind the work that we're doing with the town plan is to say, like, where in the town plan do we need to be thinking about both kind of mitigation and adaptation, and what we can do to, as I said in the first quote, reduce suffering. So we go to the next one. So partly to understand, like, we're just not making progress at any scale. So this is some data from the IPCC, which basically says we are not on track to stay under 2, even 2 degrees Celsius is not necessarily looking possible. And if you go to the next one, this is our lack of progress in hitting Vermont's climate goals, and so that's not great. If you go to the next one, this is the SEAC greenhouse gas inventory, again flat, like we're not getting anywhere. And then the last one, I told you it was dark, so that's why I'm using the bright colors. Middlebury, this is the municipal greenhouse gas inventory, and we're not making any progress there either. So we're just not, this is not great. So part of this, there's some urgency to sort of figure out, like, what dials do we have, what knobs do we have available to us. So if we go to the next one. So the question is, like, not is the climate going to change? It is changing already. And so one of the questions is, like, how much is it going to change? And so this is some work that the Union of Concerned Sciences did actually in 2015, kind of projecting under different scenarios what the climate of Vermont might be like in the future. And so if everything goes to plan, and obviously Middlebury all by itself is not going to control the plan, we may end up being like Pennsylvania. And if it doesn't go to plan, we are going to end up like Georgia. And so then the question is, what will Georgia be like? It may be unlivable, and so all the people in Georgia will want to move to Vermont. So anyway, that's just another version of what we're up against. And if you go to the next slide, I did a little reading about there's a group called the Yale Climate Communications Center based out of New Haven. They do this national survey about people's attitudes about climate change, and they've done the survey. They surveyed 33,000 people, and they've used all of these clever statistical techniques to try to figure out, like, at a county level, how do people feel. So I cherry picked some of the data. The whole thing doesn't fit on a screen, and it's getting late, so you can go back and look at it. It's fascinating. But basically what this survey suggests is that 2/3 of the people in Middlebury are worried about global warming. They think it's 60% think it's harming people currently. 75% thinks it will harm future generations. 56% think local officials, that would be you or us, should do more to address global warming. And then 65% suggest citizens should do more to address global warming. And so part of the question, if you can go to the next slide, is what do we have available to us? And so in the plan, we're thinking about housing, transportation, land use, economy, and education. I couldn't find a 6th good category, so that's what the empty box is. If you can think of a good one, go for it. And so Jen has already talked some about the housing, a lot of the transportation challenges. How do we create good public transportation, make things more walkable? How do we get more solar on our roofs and also in our fields? And this is maybe the positive side, like, what can we do in our economy to actually bring more business and do more have more economic growth around clean energy, and then just thinking about education and, like, at all sorts of levels in terms of what do we need to be doing for our students, and then how do we educate the public more broadly. So you go to the next one. So so you'll see in what we prepared for you, kind of thoughts that we have about all of these different interventions and things, actions, things we might do in all of the different chapters of the town plan. And then the specific chapter for energy and climate, we have 3 big takeaways. So one is sort of taking a comprehensive approach to energy and climate, so not thinking about it as something that can be separated out from everything else. So that's really why we're trying to do this work, take this approach. The second is something that we're actively doing now, which is sort of thinking about electrifying town operations, and so figuring out how do we actually be a model for how you can run a community without burning fossil fuels. And then the third is an area where I feel like we've not done as much as we could as a energy committee, is sort of thinking about raising awareness and speeding adoption of clean energy solutions. So just doing education, outreach, promotion, telling this story of all the good things that are happening. So each of those, if you can go to the next slide, for each of those we have a list you can read. I'm not going to read it out loud. I've turned these into more declarative statements in the language we shared with you. It's a little smushier in terms of, you might consider hiring a climate officer. Here I'm saying, like, we need to hire a climate officer. That's a conversation. So a lot of these things need kind of conversation within, the affected parties and figuring out what do these things cost. The next one is, again, this is all work I feel like the Energy Committee is doing pretty, this one doesn't seem as hard because we're doing this work now just in terms of electrifying town operations. And then the last one is just thinking about how do we get beyond our focus on municipal operations and reach the businesses, reach the citizens, get into the schools, and really think about this beyond just the confines of what the town of Middlebury does. So that, if you go to the next one, that's all I got. So that is our proposal. So you will see all of this stuff show up in these chapters as they start to be released. I think Jen suggested it would be a good idea for you in the no surprise category for you to kind of know what we're up to so that you wouldn't be surprised. I'm very interested, I know it's late so you may not have much to say other than, I wish you would go so we could go home now. Any of these things that jump out at you, like, are you crazy? We would never do that, or or anything that doesn't feel backed by science. I'd be curious to hear any sort of feedback.
I appreciate the speed run. As you have a physics professor working with you on this, I'm not going to question the science of any of these recommendations. Yeah. Questions?
I was just going to say, your committee is always on top. It just do such great work, and it's always depressing.
That's what the bright colors help. Just like, oh, it's not so bad. It's pink.
And the other side of it, which you tell us is bad, but then look at your action plan and stuff like that. If we had another $1 billion,
yeah.
I mean, we're supportive. We understand, but.
So one of the big questions, and this is in the literature, it suggests that this stuff is not only better for the climate and us, but it's actually better for the pocketbook. There's just this kind of hump you have to get over, which until
that's that $1 billion hump.
Till January, we actually had the federal government like shoving money at us to do this stuff. We don't have that anymore. But on the other side of that investment is actually, it's less expensive, and so that's really the challenge. It's like, how do we find that bunch of money so that we can get to this better place? All right, that's my story.
Thank you.
That's our story.
It's a great story. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll be up all night again worrying about it.
Yikes.
I know. It's so, yeah.
Ross, thanks for sticking with us.
Hey, Ross.
So in the past 2 years, since the tunnel project was completed, Better Middlebury Partnership has organized a downtown market. I understand they're not going to be doing that this year.
Okay.
They may do a couple markets, but not a seasonal.
An ongoing weekly. Okay.
And so what I'm proposing is weekly market in the downtown. This would not be the Middlebury Farmers Market. This would be a new market, Addison County Farmers Market Association. The focus would be to support the local food system, try to strengthen the social fabric of our community, and it would be ideally, you know, ideally it's going to be a year-round.
Yeah.
That's the long term. But also, I'm trying to think bigger than just a farmers market.
Yeah.
What I'd like to see is develop an organization that supports all the farmers markets in the county, because quite frankly, Addison County has more farms than any other county in the state of Vermont. We should have some of the most vibrant farmers markets in the state.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, some of our markets have really struggled over the years. And so I'd like to get this organization so it can help support them, say, become a nonprofit so we can maybe get grants to help promote all the farmers markets in the county. Or another big problem sometimes is just finding a manager to run the market on market day. You know, you one day a week, you maybe make $3,000 a season. It's kind of hard to find someone to do that work and then retain them over the years. But if we can run maybe one here and one in Bristol and one in Virgins, and then 3 days a week, $9,000 for a season, that might be more attractive and more likely to retain a manager. And so that's the kind of thinking I want to see it develop to. But we're going to start with just a downtown market and build from there.
Have you talked to the BMP folks about this already?
Yes, I have. We were talking about, because they want to have some markets, and if they're going to do it on the same day as us, I feel like they're welcome. We can have our markets side by side. To me, the more the merrier.
On the same day?
Yeah, potentially. I don't know if they're going to want to do it on Wednesday. They may want Saturday. I'm looking at Wednesday because I don't want to compete with any of the existing farmers markets.
So what's the overall response to this proposal?
What's the, how many, like, as an example, how many farmers have you lined up so far? Have you?
I've got a handful of folks that have said an interest, but until I get a permit, I don't feel like I have anything to actually promote. And you know, I'm looking to you guys to see if this is a viable thing that I should actually put my energy into.
Do you see any problem with the permit?
No.
Please.
I would move to approve the
Bring
proposed
it.
assemblage permit application by the Addison County Farmers Market Association to hold a farmers market at Triangle Park each Wednesday from June 4th to October 29th, 2025.
Second.
Thank you for your initiative.
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic thing. I hope that that there is a lot of energy and enthusiasm as this takes off. Absolutely.
Well, we know from a survey that was done a number of years ago, the majority of vendors
Yeah.
were interested in being downtown,
Yeah.
and the majority of the customers wanted to see it downtown.
Right. Yeah.
So that's really my focus. I'm trying to get something going downtown.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, and whatever we can do to help you, let us know, but also work with the BMP and,
Oh, yeah.
and try to,
Yep.
I mean, they're great promoters and everything. It's just,
Yeah.
they were only just selling stuff and that needed food. Like I said, we needed to buy groceries there.
Right. We'll probably have some crafts, but I want it
Yeah.
to be more farmer agricultural focus. Yeah.
Right.
So, the Better Middlebury Partnership, if they believe that what you're doing helps bring people into their shops, they have a source of money through their own assessments and through the reserve, the fund balance that exists, that they could nominate if they think this would advance their downtown economic benefit.
I'll tell you an interesting thing. The BMP for the markets for, I think, the last 3 years did not pay for it. Table 21
that right?
Gave money for at least
For
the last 2 years.
managing.
I think it was all 3 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we were piling in. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
an idea, it was a great idea, and save them money.
Sweet. Other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye. Yeah. Go forth and prosper.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ross.
Thank you.
I needed.
All right.
is
I
here.
took it, and it's
over there now.
Is it over here?
There it is.
Do you need these?
Dan does.
You should probably read the numbers off it. There you go, Dan.
I give you permission to do that.
You gave me permission to do this? Is that... You ready for these? Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, please, give us some
Okay.
check warrant numbers.
I don't have the, nothing to read. so
Yeah,
I
you
have-
can move total expenditures in the amount of.
Right. I can fake this. Yeah, I move to approve the total expenditures in the amount of $796.95 with $561,410.49 in accounts payable and $138,686.46 in payroll for the period of February 26, 2025 through March 11th, 2025.
Well done.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Seconded by Farhad. People didn't hear that. Very good. Board member concerns. Starting on the far right with Fred.
I'm going to withhold my welcome to the board.
Thank you.
And,
All right.
Welcome to the board. Thanks to everyone who worked the polls, volunteered at the polls, and I just visited the mini Ilsley the other day, and it's so great. It goes youngest to oldest, and there's still space to study, for quiet space, and space for kids to play. So I think it's a really great space, and I think it'll be really beneficial to have that in that location with that setup, you know, for the next couple months as we work for construction.
Great.
Yay. Thanks for welcoming me. This is awesome, and I'm excited to learn more. So,
A little
that's
trial by
exciting.
fire with a
Like a fire
lengthy
hose
meeting.
or something.
Farhad?
Welcome, Megan, to get back together with you after MCTV.
Yes.
And congratulations, Izzy and Andy, for being re-elected.
Thanks.
In a tough race.
You guys got, came
I
in
was-
second,
I was-
third, dog.
Truth.
Always happens.
significant that Megan outpolled you.
Yeah, I know.
Andy outpulled me. What?
Yeah. Daniel?
I just had an interesting thing when, during the polls, I manned the library station there, and it was really, really fun.
Yeah.
And it got lots of positive remarks about the Ilsley Mini, and people, you know, were really supportive of the library and talking very highly of all the articles we passed. So it was a couple hours of just a good time.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
It was nice that it was not as cold as the last two times that I've.
It was windy.
It was a little windy, particularly in the morning, but man, it's been sleety, horrific. Other town meeting Tuesdays.
We were in the rain last year, and Fred and I.
Yeah. Ugh.
All day.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add.
One small thing, as we get kicking off next Monday back here, to the extent you guys hear complaints, concerns, things from the public that reach out to you about what's going to happen back here,
Yeah.
inevitably that will come. You know, I think Chris and Dana and everyone's going to be try to be as reasonably flexible as we can be. You know, it is a construction project, but if you can share those things our way, we can get them out to Chris and
You
his
said
team.
next Monday?
When the fencing goes up,
Okay.
and the real things kick off, if you can share it, if you hear anything, if you can share it with us, we can get it to Chris and his team, and
Sure.
to the extent we can act, we can act.
Yeah, and I did have somebody that suggested to me, and you know this is a difficult thing, to come out of down there, you have to come up and you can only make a right-hand turn.
Mm-hmm.
Their concern was how many people are going to be making the left-hand turn.
So, yep.
And I know
That's something we've already discussed with
And-
the police chief, and we recognize that if that becomes a pattern of behavior, then we have to discuss it from a safety perspective of how to ensure people are only making the right turn, right, and not allow that habit, because somebody coming westbound on the bridge is not going to expect that, a car veering into their
Absolutely.
lane.
that's exactly right.
So-
Or off the roundabout.
Come this real quick
Yeah.
exit off that
Yeah.
roundabout there.
Right.
One of the things that concerns me is keeping this door open this main door?
It's exit only.
It'll be exit only, so the fire chief raised that issue.
For egress one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that will remain as.
You don't want to be a public.
Because of the proximity, I think Chris's concern was we keep it open in the event of emergency in this building, but we have two other doors that are.
Yeah, and also, aren't they gonna build a shelter over the top of, that goes further out? Isn't there like a New York City walking down the street protection?
Yes, for when they're working on this side of the building, it's very close to
So
protect
it'll be
the
emergency only
I was trying to be
usage.
cute.
If you allow.
But thank you.
Sorry.
All right, guys.
Chris got something.
Can I just ask a question? I had raised the question initially in something this was before you started, on the question of electric car charging and leaving the option open for that. And the library project is required to have space for 6 spaces for EV charging. 1 level 2 charger, dual port to be set up initially. And it occurred to me that where they had positioned those in the upper lot might be something that the board ought to talk about as a whole, to give you guidance. I know that the parking lot moving is one of the early things they have to do. It's not a big deal monetarily to have conduits extend under the retaining wall to make it possible for those to be there, so that the upper lot can be not encumbered by cars charging with level 2 chargers 10 hours at a time or vacant, and instead provide a place for that in the lower lot, or to keep the options open for the town. If you think those are policy questions, I know that they need to know pretty early in the process and how that would happen. If you could let us know what things you think the board needs to react to and to keep ahead of your project.
The project management team is aware of that question, so why don't I get a formal answer and I can share it with the full board.
Okay.
So, is it I've been on this project a while. I've never heard the requirement that there is 6 electrical chargers are required.
It's in the Commercial Building Energy Code, and it's on the plans on the electrical sheet. If you, I think I showed it to you briefly.
You did, and I just saw
and what it requires is there be space for 6 charging, so they have 3 dual port ones that are.
And that requirement is where?
In the Commercial Building Energy Code that applies to buildings of this nature that are built in Vermont. Brian Carpenter said, "Oh yeah, on my new equipment dealerships, I got to deal with that."
Okay.
So he's, unless you're in the practice of building these things, you don't become aware of it.
I just didn't know where it came from.
And but the town has the choice of the location of that, and we might opt to make it possible for a level 3 charger down there by extending a different conduit from the, I'll call it the encampment transformer box, down. The time to do this is when the lot is being dug up.
Definitely.
And conduit by itself is not very expensive. The 1-inch conduits that go out to these level 2 chargers are, a 10-foot stick of that is $6.66 at Green Mountain Electrical Supply. So it should not be a money issue. This is budget dust on this project.
Fred will get an answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, second. All in favor? Aye. Thanks, guys.